That national anthem comes to you on a brilliant, bright, sunny day from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota. The Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings here on CBS. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Ryan with John Unitas here at Bloomington for a very important game. Two teams that are 1-1. They're in the same Central Division of the NFC. And John, Bud Grant, cognizant of some of the criticism that his team has had for not playing so well the first two games, an overtime loss to Dallas, a narrow victory over Tampa Bay last week, Bud says, hey, it's early. No team should be judged on the first two games of the season.
2 games does not a season make, and I've never seen Bud Grant too excited about anything, Tim. He has a fine football team in the Minnesota Vikings and an offensive team that can explode any time of a ball game and put some points on the board. But of course should be concerned about one thing, and that is the enormity of penalties, interceptions, fumbles. He's had 13 so far penalties in 2 ball games, 6 of them last week against the Tampa Buccaneers, and that is almost unheard of. And on the other hand, the Green Bay Packers, a young, aggressive football team coached by Bart Starr in a rebuilding program. Bart has these people believing in themselves. They came out, they won 1 ball game against the New Orleans Saints, and again last week came within a whisker of beating the Houston Oilers. This football team is going to be a winner in a couple more years, and they're doing a real fine job.
And the pass is caught by Odom. He's up on his feet. Odom. He's at the 30, and he's going to score. Steve Odom, and the Packers get on the board on a 3rd and 11. John Unitas, how about that?
Tim, that was an outstanding catch by Odom and a real good reflexive move for him getting right back up off the floor of the turf down there. Let's take a look at it from the camera and watch the blocking that is afforded Dickey here. A fine throw, but watch the reception on Odom as the defender goes for the interception, does not get it. Odom comes up and goes the distance for the touchdown. An outstanding catch, and even better than that was a reflex move by Odom, not being touched by a defender to get up with the football and score the first touchdown.
That was Nate Wright on the coverage, and that was indeed a very alert play by Odom, realizing that he could run with the ball, and boy did he once he got up. The point after attempt is good. Chester Marcol knocking it in, and the Green Bay Packers have jumped into a surprising 7-0 lead early in the first period.
10 for the Vikings at the Green Bay 16.
You can hear the PA announcer give you the count, and they are driving, trying to tie it up here. In motion back toward the line is White. Tarkenton will throw. Intended for White, touchdown! And the Vikings are right back in it. You saw motions from Sammy White starting back toward the rest of the backfield and then turning it up. We'll see it again.
There's something that Minnesota very rarely does with motion, but Sammy White is so quick coming off that line. With that motion, the defender has to stay off of him. And when he does that, he's downfield so quickly, and the defender had him pushed back to the inside, as you saw, and Sammy just went back to his corner out there, and Francis had the ball sitting right in his arms.
80 yards in 15 plays for the score. Cox will attempt the point after, and it is good. We have a tie ball game. Fran Tarkenton to Sammy White brings the Vikings right back into it. With 5:43 remaining first period, we're tied at 7. Third and goal to go. Wide right is Sammy White. Foreman, touchdown, Chuck Foreman. And the Minnesota Vikings have gone in front of the Green Bay Packers.
It appeared that Williams and Roller may have had Foreman on this play. It's a quick trap up the middle. Let's see if they have a shot at him. Roller almost had a hand on him, but he just continues to go on and move into the end zone for the touchdown. Good offensive line play by the Minnesota Vikings, blowing Green Bay back off the ball.
3-yard touchdown by Chuck Foreman. 72 yards in 13 plays for the Vikings. Fred Cox attempting the point after. And it's no good. No good. Wide to the left, and so the Minnesota Vikings now lead the Green Bay Packers 13-7. We have 12:27 remaining in the second period. Tim Ryan with Johnny Unitas at Bloomington, Minnesota. We're at halftime. The Vikings lead 13-7 over the Green Bay Packers. Cox having missed the extra point, and thus the 13-7 score. And a game that saw in that first half the Vikings have the ball for 21 minutes and 21 seconds, John. They should be farther ahead, except that the Packers kind of rose up there in the second period and on 3 consecutive series managed to stop the Vikings' attack.
The Green Bay Packers have played some good defense the last couple minutes. They did not play good defense in the first quarter, Tim. As you mentioned, the Minnesota Vikings took the ball and just ran it and threw it at will. Francis doing an outstanding job, I think, of play calling, hitting Sammy White downfield and Rashad as well, and then going course with Foreman and Miller coming out of the backfield.
We saw an outstanding play in the first minute by the Green Bay Packers as they took the lead. The pass to Odom that went 95 yards, a little sideliner on 3rd and 11. He made a good catch, and then realizing that he had not been down, Nate Wright looked like he might have been going for the ball on the play, and Odom got up very alertly. That was a fine play.
Nate thought he had a chance for the interception. The ball was thrown low. Odom made a diving catch for it. As you mentioned, a good reflexive act by Odom to get up and, of course, avoid one tackler and go on for the 95-yard touchdown run.
So Green Bay had the lead, and it didn't last long, however, because Tarkenton passed to Sammy White, a 16-yard touchdown that resulted in a 7-7 tie with the drive going 80 yards in 15 plays. And then in the second period, Foreman scored from 3 yards out after another long time-consuming drive, 72 yards in 13 plays. Cox missed that point after, and thus the 13-7 score. But you do have the feeling that Minnesota feels that they can move the ball pretty much the way they want to against Green Bay, and I guess the Packers trying to convince them otherwise.
Well, they have had success at doing what they wanted to, and they've done an excellent job of it. The Green Bay Packers, of course, coming back and playing some good defensive football. Offensively, they haven't done anything, Tim. They have not had over 1 first down in the first half, which is good ball control by the Vikings. Of course, good defensive play too. Len Dickey has been low with most of the balls he's thrown all afternoon. You know,
I had the Packers against New Orleans in the first game of the season. Dickey threw very well down there today, but he just hasn't been able to get it going here today. They've had only 19 yards rushing, 84 yards passing. So their net total yardage 103 against 207 by the Vikings, double, as you can tell. So we've got some other scores around the league, and we can take a look at those now as we see Atlanta still leading the New York Giants 7-0. They are in the second period there. And the Falcons, of course, had that upset in the opening week over the Rams. Detroit leading Philadelphia 10-7 at the half. The Lions, of course, want to stay very much at contention here in the Central Division of the NFC, and they want that win there. They are favored, of course. Here's an interesting score as the Jets continue to give the Patriots all they can handle. 20-14. They're in the third period. Greg Buttle scored for the Jets to keep that close. And this, an interesting tough ball game. The Cleveland Browns, who have won 2 tough games already, in there against Pittsburgh. They have Oakland next week to face, and they're hanging in against Pittsburgh 21-14. Dallas, as expected, ahead of Tampa Bay 17-0 at the half. Tampa Bay with a very tough defensive team, but unable to do much offensively. Baltimore and Buffalo, look at this one. Buffalo having some problems against the Colts having problems against Buffalo in the second period as they have a slender 7-0 lead. That's a bit of a surprise, although the Colts are hurting a little bit. But we're all through here with our scores at Bloomington. We'll be back for the second half shortly. Right now we're going to CBS in New York.
Irvin Phillips, I've just been handed a story that heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali said he will not fight anyone for another 8 months, and he will, as always, consider retiring. But, said Ali, I don't think that I am ready to retire yet. And now let's take you around the National Football League and quickly update the scores. In the fourth quarter, Atlanta holding on. Good defense against the Giants today. Philadelphia and Detroit. Detroit leading 17-13. The Eagles had been ahead 13-10. New England and the New York Jets, this could be the big upset of the day. The Jets have played a standout football game, and they lead 27-20 in the fourth quarter now. Pittsburgh and Cleveland, the amazing Browns, hanging tough. 3 touchdown passes for Bradshaw in that game. Green Bay and Minnesota, many of you watching that game at the half. The Vikes lead 13-7. New Orleans and Chicago, many of you also watching this contest. And it is the Saints trying to win for the first time, ahead 21-10 at the half. Tampa Bay and Dallas at the half. The rest of you watching this contest. The Bucks have been able to score, but still it doesn't look as though they will win for the first time. An update on that Buffalo-Baltimore. The Bills have scored, and now they are tied at 7. And Phyllis George, speaking of updates, what about the United States Grand Prix?
It is raining in Glen Watkins. Glen Watkins. I've got so many names in my head today. CBS Sports Spectacular will bring you coverage of that race next Saturday at 4:30 Eastern Time. But right now, let's go to Kenny Squire, who's trackside for a progress report in that rain. Ken, what's happening?
Well, Phyllis, under adverse conditions, King James the Fleet, James Hunt of England, is leading the United States Grand Prix here at Watkins Glen by only 11 seconds over the United States of America's Mario Andretti. Running third is South Africa's Jody Scheckter, while in fourth is Niki Lauda. There is Hunt, the leader. Running in fifth on this very wet, rainy track is Carlos Reutemann of Argentina. Clay Regazzoni, the Swiss, is running seventh. He's being challenged by Ronnie Peterson of Sweden. Next in line, and Jacques Lafitte runs in the 8th position. Danny Ungaius of the United States started 26. He moved all the way to 16th position, crashed. He is all right. Hans Stuck of West Germany, seeking his first Grand Prix victory, went out in front, led this race by as much as 8 seconds. Then he, too, has crashed here in the rain. Most of the cars are all on wet tires, and those tires, as the track is now beginning to dry out, are beginning to have problems. They may lose their tires before this one is over. James Hunt, right here, your leader in turn 1.
And again, you will see that race next Saturday on the CBS Sports Spectacular. And the NFL Today will continue on CBS in just a moment.
The NFL Today will continue after this word from your local station.
Terry Bradshaw has just run for a touchdown in the Steelers in the fourth quarter. They kicked the extra point. It is 28-14 now, Pittsburgh over Cleveland. And with highlights, let's take a look at the New York Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. The Giants unable to score, and this play set up the Falcons' first touchdown. It was a punt to Lawrence, and watch him bust a couple of weak tackles here, coming back down the sideline. They couldn't pull him down from his ankle, and he got down to the Giants' 34-yard line. Scott Hunter, who once played in a playoff game with the Green Bay Packers against the Washington Redskins, on the keeper, got it down to the 1-inch line. And from there, Scott handed off to Ely, who busted across, and after the extra point, it was 7-0. Here's the Falcon defense in action. I've been telling you about them. Goldstein, formerly of Northern Illinois. There he is, sacked by Lewis. Watch now, Kuykendall going to get in on him and deflect the pass. Well, I'll tell you, if the Falcons win today, they'll be 2-1, and they had a chance to beat Washington. Watch this interception. Here's Ray Brown. They're doing an excellent job today in the fourth quarter, shutting out the Giants. Irv?
Tell you, Brent, I'm trying to listen to the Philadelphia-Detroit game right now. Ron Jaworski just went out of the game with a leg injury in the fourth quarter, but the Lions are leading that game by a score of 17-13. Here's Ron here, quarterback right now, 3rd and 16 on the Philadelphia 22-yard line. He goes to the air, but the ball's picked off here by Levi Johnson. He makes a nifty run back up to the 14-yard line, setting up a Dexter Buzzy score. You'll see it in a second as Buzzy goes off his right end, blast upfield for a nifty 14-yard run. Detroit draws first blood, 7-0. Philadelphia tries to come back as Jaworski again goes to the air, this time to his tight end Krepley, who makes a nifty catch. Touchdown, Philadelphia, and it's all knotted up 7-7. Jaworski handing off this time to Mike Hogan, a pretty nifty running back. He makes a real neat run here, working off to his left side, coming upfield, goes all the way down to the 1-yard line. Jaworski goes to the air again, this time looking for his biggest receiver, 6'8" Harold Carmichael. He catches on to it. The Eagles take a temporary lead, 10-13, because they missed the extra point. Landry counters with another pass himself. Dexter Buzzy goes in for a score. Detroit leads 17-13 in the fourth quarter, and Jaworski is out with an injury.
Irvin, Phyllis, the Green Bay Packers struck first in their game against the Minnesota Vikings. It was a 95-yard pass that we're going to show you. Lynn Dickey, formerly of Houston, unloading it to Odom, who has got speed as he gets up, and he was not down on the play, and he just ran it the rest of the way. And after the extra point, it was 7-0, Packers over the Vikes. But Tarkenton came back. Remember the sensational rookie of a year ago, Sammy White, that great catch he made in the playoffs? Here's a touchdown to White after the extra point tied at 7. Chuck Foreman then went across for a touchdown. Extra point failed, and it was 13-7. And right now, let's go back to the stadiums as the NFL Today continues on CBS.
Okay.
Well, at halftime here at Bloomington, Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings continue to lead the Packers 13-7, but it is a strange kind of a game. The Pack has not done a whole lot offensively, but they are still very much in it. And we'll be back here for the second half in just a moment. First and goal for the Vikings. Good run by Johnson through a big hole. Johnson. So the Vikings, after a long drought going back early in the second quarter, the touchdown by Foreman, finally got on the board again and now have a more commanding lead with 6:34 remaining. We'll see it again.
That run by Johnson there is worth seeing again as Tarkington hands off. He takes a pretty good shot right at the line of scrimmage right there by number 50 of the Green Bay Packers, Jim Carter, but he's able to spin off and back into the end zone.
And Cox, it's good. And so, with 6:34 remaining now in regulation time, we have a flag down on the point after play. Cox made it. It's against the Vikings, so everybody's got to come on back up here. Vikes have their kickoff team on the field already. They've now got 2 units out there. Finally, they get the message back at the 30-yard line where they were assembled, and we'll have to kick it over from a little farther back.
This must be the year of the holding penalty against the Vikings. They must have had, I know, at least 4 this afternoon.
Offensive holding, number 59.
Matt Blair on that specials team, guilty of holding. So he'll have to kick it now from the 20, which makes it a 30-yard point after. Good practice for your field goals, if nothing else. It's blocked. Well, isn't that interesting? And so, Ezra Johnson puts the block on it, the rookie, and the Packers stay in it here with the Vikings now leading 19-7, 6:34 remaining. And that'll do it.
Drive safely on your way home.
We have 5 seconds showing on the scoreboard clock, but the gun is sounded and the teams are walking off the field, so it's official. The Minnesota Vikings have defeated the Green Bay Packers 19-7 for Bud Grant, his 100th victory against 39 losses and 4 ties in the National Football League. So a milestone today for Grant, but a long way to go in this season as they hope to return to the Super Bowl. Stay tuned now as the NFL Today continues after this word from your local station.
The one ball that Avellini put in the air was right on the numbers, but Braddock couldn't hold on. Now Avellini on first down looking to put it up again. He's got time. Now the big rush comes and Avellini throws and gets a man. It's Walter Payton. And Payton is inside the 10. It's going to be touchdown Chicago. Avellini, who had a scramble, got it off on the run. He looked for an open man and he got the right one. And Walter Payton, who does it on his own if you give him room.
This is what you'd like to do against a club like New Orleans. It's been reported that they're a little bit weak in the secondary, if there's such a thing. But you give Mr. Payton to any linebacker, this is what can happen. Gets a block, finds a little room on the sideline, and he starts to step out. It's all over. 6-pointer.
So now Bob Thomas will try the point after. Gets 2 hits with little difficulty. And so we have 9 minutes left to play in the first quarter here at Chicago, and the Bears have ripped up the big gainer, and they're in the lead 7-0. Muncie is 6'3", 220 pounds. #1 draft choice of the Saints a year ago. Average 4.4 yards a carry. Manning on a quarterback draw calls his own number and takes it down inside the 10 and down to the 8. On second and just over 11, Archie Manning on a quarterback draw brings it down, and now the Saints will have a 3rd down coming up. About 5.
This kind of move by the quarterback Archie Manning can give a defense headache because every time he moves back, they expect pass, but they know that Archie Manning can run the football and run it well.
Montgomery and Morrison, the tackles for the Saints. Schumacher and Zanders, the guard. John Hill is down over the ball at center. 3rd and 5. Manning takes a look. He's looking at Herman. Now he's going to run it himself, and Archie Manning takes it in for a touchdown for New Orleans. And the Saints moving the ball very nicely, looking like they did in the preseason. And right back through the Chicago Bear defense and now put up 6 points, and Zarro is out to try to tie the game.
A busted play. Chicago covered well into the secondary. The good legs of Archie Manning. Couldn't use his arm, so off we go. And the pot of gold, 6 pounds.
Archie Manning is now in his 7th year. He came out, of course, in the year of the quarterback, the year that Plunkett went to New England, Pastorini to Houston, and Manning to New Orleans. Zarro hits the extra point. It is up and good. That was the year Paul Brown drafted a guy in the 3rd round, said, I got the best one of all. Turned out to be Ken Anderson. Right now, with 50 seconds left to play in the first quarter here at Soldier Field in Chicago, the Saints and the Bears are in a tied-up game, 7-7. 3rd down and about a foot for the first down, and 3rd down and just over a yard for the touchdown. Let's see if they go back over to Galbraith. Manning calls his own number, and Archie Manning's going to score his 2nd touchdown of the game. So Manning play faking to his fullbacks and then rolling out and taking it in from a yard out.
And the Bear fans don't like what they see among their defensive players. They are beginning to boo. Manning here calls his own play, and it's getting rather risky to see a quarterback move around like that, but certainly it has worked this far, but you don't want to see a valuable player like Manning do that.
A big block by number 79, Emmanuel Zanders, who you saw kick out on the outside linebacker, Doug Buffone. That gave Manning the room for the touchdown. That was the touchdown block. Extra point by Zarro is delivered up and good, and so all of a sudden, after the Bears opened up an early 7-point lead, looked like they might be putting the Saints to rout. New Orleans rallies back with 2 touchdowns by their quarterback Manning to take the lead. So it'll be 3rd down and 11. The ball just inside the 35-yard line of Chicago. Manning, you see, good for 59 yards. He has run for the Saints 2 touchdowns in this game. They lead 14-7. There he goes. Puts it up. Guy's open. Chuck Muncie, he's going to take it in. Touchdown Saints. Boy, this game turned around after the Bears ripped it open early. All of a sudden, New Orleans has ripped it right open the other way. It is a 20-7 game.
Same place that the Bears scored on, a broken play, pressure on the quarterback. This time it's New Orleans time to move the ball in a broken pattern, find their halfback, and Chuck Muncie flips it out and down the right sideline, the same place where Walter Payton scored the opening touchdown for the Bears.
Manning's a great athlete. Recently, the Southeast Conference named their all-time team for the last 25 years, and he was picked as the quarterback. There's been some pretty good ones out of that conference. Here's the extra point attempt. Up and good by Zarro. It's a 21-7 game. Manning, White Sox fans may recall, was offered a $100,000 bonus to sign with the Chicago White Sox as a shortstop.
You don't design this kind of play. You just want to make sure that all your receivers get in front of the quarterback. The quarterback knows where he is. A little flip to his running back, Muncie. And again, we do it.
Muncie runs away from everybody. He can move it out. So now we have 1:04 left to play in the first half, and it's a very disappointing day for those who gathered here at Soldier Field, but a very happy one for New Orleans right now as the Saints, off 2 off performances, all of a sudden are looking like they did when they were beating everybody in the preseason. New Orleans opening up a 21-7 lead in the first half. And we have the Saints with a 3rd down, and a big one coming up as they're down close again to a score.
Don Archie Manning is mixing his plays very well. That time he faked a little pitch out to Chuck Muncie and gave it on a draw play to Galbraith.
Manning loses his footing again, the quarterback draw, and again Manning takes it in for a touchdown. Archie Manning calls his own number and for a 3rd time scores a touchdown. They love it in New Orleans, but it's not a happy setting right here in Chicago as the boos start to cascade down.
Again, the Bears are victimized by their scheme of things, blitzing their linebackers, bringing the defensive ends upfield, which tells Archie Manning, my middle is open. All I have to do is fake pass, run up the middle. He has scored again for the third time today.
Zarro with the point after. It is up. It is good. So now with 8 minutes and 44 seconds to play in the third quarter, the Saints have opened up a 28-10 lead, and Chicago's going to have to start pitching. Huge waves kicking in off Lake Michigan, crashing over the break walls. Off in the distance as Avellini looks into the end zone. Walter Payton got the ball. He got in. But there is a penalty marker down. Scott and Rather are wide to either side as Avellini takes the deep drop. Here's the big rush. Free football. This might go. This might go the distance. Bob Pollard with the lineman's dream. Bob Pollard goes the distance. Alex Price was the man who came in, hit Avellini, and knocked him free, and that is the football game, although we got 8:20 left. The Chicago Bears have fallen behind 34-10, and people are packing up their trench coats and bailing out of Wrigley Field, or out of Soldier Field right now.
Bob Pollard of the Saints defensive captain. He's their most consistent player in that defensive line, rather. Probably the best player on the defensive front here. He picks it up, and as Don has said, every lineman dreams of picking up a fumble or grabbing off an interception and running the distance with it.
All those ball control drills, they roll them at the linemen, get their hands ready to pick it up, and I'll tell you one thing, when Bob Pollard got his hands on it, he knew what to do with it. The extra point is drilled up and good by Zarro, and all of a sudden the New Orleans Saints, after 2 off weeks, are ripping it open here at Chicago as they are routing the Bears 35-10. Chances of the Bears coming back to win this game are just about none at all. 5:35 to play, 35-10 New Orleans. Pitch back goes to Walter Payton. Look at that run. Payton's going to take it in for a touchdown. He's had a lot of great runs. None any better than that.
And that's one of them.
He got that in his own. Walter Payton rips it in. That makes it a 35-16 game. Payton now has 84 yards in 16 carries. That one was good for 21 yards and a touchdown.
Don, this is art in motion. Nice little skip. Regains with that left hand, gets his balance. Now it's time to stretch out, get everything you've got, and move it on in. Beautiful run.
Walter Payton from Jackson State. Extra point is up and good, and it's a 35-17 game, and with 5:27 left to play, New Orleans with the big lead will also get the football back, and they will be running it. Intercepted. Jim Merlo picks it off. He returned 2 for touchdowns last year. He's going to get his first this year. Guys closing in on him, but Merlo goes into the end zone for a touchdown. Jim Merlo was caught by Walter Payton, but the impetus of Payton hurdled himself, and Jim Merlo into the end zone, and so defensemen for the New Orleans Saints have scored 2 touchdowns today. It is a 41-17 game.
That's balanced scoring. They've done it both offensively and defensively today. Avellini should not have thrown this ball at this point because he got a lot of pressure from Alex. Threw the ball off balance. And that's the results.
Jim Merlo, a 4th-year linebacker from Stanford. Extra point by Richie Zarro is up and good. And we have a 42-17 score on the board, and any Bear fans that thought Chicago had a chance are firmly convinced now they do not, as Soldier Field is emptying out. There he goes. Second and goal at the 1-yard line. Walter Payton over the top. Touchdown, Chicago. 1:26 to play. The Bears put up some more points, but they're still way short of New Orleans. It's a 42-23 game, the Saints in the lead.
This was also a great effort by Payton, only needing a yard out. He turns his body loose, gives it up, gets over the top, comes head first, lands on the shoulder, neck, head, everything. That's what you call turning the body loose.
Bounces right up like a greyhound now.
Up and over.
Thomas hits the extra point with Baschnagel holding it now. With 1:26 left to go, the Bears will kick it back off to the Saints. And so the gun sounds, and it is official. The New Orleans Saints upsetting the Chicago Bears 42-24. Chicago scored first 7-0, and from then on it was New Orleans as the Saints went off to a 21-10 first half lead. Extended that lead throughout the second half with big defensive plays, and finally prevailed over the Chicago Bears in what's got to be the highest scoring game of the NFL season so far. 66 points on the board. New Orleans getting its first win in Chicago, its second loss of the season with just one win.
Well, that's the final in New York now. The Jets over New England 30-27.
It is first down and 10 yards to go for the Giants. They have the ball at their own 21. We have 6 seconds remaining to be played in this game. Falcons are leading by a score of 17-3. Tim Moriarty was injured and is being helped off the field.
This one is history.
Dropping back again is Pisarcik, and he's going long. 2 seconds, 1 second, and time has run out on the incompleted pass, and the ball game is over. This is Lindsey Nelson for Paul Hornung saying goodbye from Atlanta, Georgia. The CBS Sports Spectacular highlights action from the U.S. Grand Prix from Watkins Glen, where Nicky Lauda will be looking to sew up the 1977 Grand Prix championship. Then it's Bill Superfoot Wallace defending his world full-contact middleweight karate title against Pat Worley. Finally, it's more action in the world's strongest men competition. That's next Saturday on the CBS Sports Spectacular. Stay tuned as the NFL Today continues after this word from your local station.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Costas along with Nick Bonaconte. And, Nick, the assignment for Dick Vermeil's Eagles: bounce back and forget about last week's 20-0 defeat at Los Angeles.
Well, an anemic 112 yards for the Eagle offense last week. Ron Jaworski having an awful day. But Dick Vermeil feels that he has the leadership ability to turn the Eagles offense around. His target will be Harold Carmichael, who has receptions in 68 consecutive games. He's the man that Jaworski will go to in tough situations. And at middle linebacker, 66, Bill Berkey. He doesn't tackle people, he destroys them. The Lion running backs will pay for yardage today.
Well, he'll have his sights set on Greg Landry, who leads the NFC right now in passing stats through the first 2 weeks, and also his talented pair of running backs, Dexter Bussey, 24, and Horace King, 25. They rank 2 and 3 in the NFC in total rushing offense, and Bussey, coming into this third week, is only 1 yard behind Walter Payton of the Chicago Bears, who is the overall leader. The Lions are 1-1, as we mentioned. Everybody in the NFC Central is 1-1, so Detroit has to figure that they have a chance to dethrone the Minnesota Vikings. They have games coming up, 2 of them this year with Minnesota, and they'll be looking forward to that. But right now, Nick, we're approaching the kickoff, and it looks like the Lions are going to be kicking to the Eagles to get this one underway.
You know, a little contrast, because the Lions, although they're leading in offense in the National Football League, Landry has been sacked 10 times in the last 2 games, so it's going to be interesting to see whether the Eagles can put the same type of rush today.
Well, I had a 50-50 chance of being right, and I was wrong. The Lions are going to receive. So we're going to see Horst Muhlman of the Eagles kicking off, and this may be the biggest workout of the day for Muhlman because he happens to be, what with the troubles that the the Eagles have had on offense, he is the only regular kicker in the NFL who has not attempted a field goal to this point in the season. Rick Kane, number 32, will be back deep for the Lions, and Muhlman will kick off. There is Kane in the middle. He is flanked by Andy Bolton, 43, and Leonard Thompson, 39. And we're underway at the Silverdome. Kane at the 3. Little trouble finding the handle, but he's turned this one into a good return. Out of bounds across the 30, near the 35. They can pretty much let loose and come charging in on this play. Jaworski has time, though. And right into the hands of Levi Johnson. Johnson with the interception, and he may go. Cut down finally at the 15. Levi Johnson, who picked one off last week against the Saints, adds another. He intercepted 6 last year, and Jaworski laid this one right in his arms.
Good protection by the offensive line of the Eagles. Jaworski just simply overthrows Carmichael. Beautiful center field play by Levi Johnson. And one thing he likes to do is run with the football. He has good speed, good moves, a good return.
And a 32-yard return it was.
Carmichael was open, just overthrew him.
Hard to overthrow Carmichael, but Jaworski did that time. 3:26 to play, first quarter. And the Lions with their first scoring threat. 1st and 10 from the Philly 14. Bussey. He may take it in. Touchdown, Dexter Bussey. (6-0) Detroit as they immediately capitalize on the break following the interception by Johnson. Let's look at it again.
There we go. You have Hill and Sanders making a big block. Bollinger turning the corner, making sure everything hems inside. All Bussey does is run to the open spot in the end zone. It's a touchdown. The blocking for the Lions has been superb.
Steve Mickemeyer, obtained before the season from San Francisco, in to kick. And Gary Danielson, backup quarterback, will hold, but wait a second.
My old teammate, John Morris, number 63, we were teammates at Boston. Just went to the turf.
Let's listen to Cal Lepore again.
Encroachment 65 on the defense. This penalty being enforced on the kickoff.
Charlie Johnson jumped across, and it won't change the position for this kid, but it will allow the Lions to kick off from the 40 instead of the 35, following the point after. So we do it all over again. Danielson holding, Mickemeyer kicking. 7-0 Detroit. Once again, the strong ground game has been the story for the Lions. Bussey, 3 carries for 30 yards. King, 5 for 21. And with 3:20 to play in the first quarter, Detroit 7, Philadelphia nothing. You a linebacker on the sandlots or a running back?
I was a guard.
Never any fun. Jaworski is 5 of 9. He's had 1 intercepted. 2nd and 10. He wants a big chunk, and he's got Keith Prefley, and Prefley is there for the touchdown. 31-yard touchdown pass from Jaworski to Prefley. The Eagles went 72 yards in 7 plays. And we'll take another look at the scoring play.
All right, there's double coverage on both outside receivers, and the rookie, Tommy Dakin, has the coverage, which he misses. And Prefley goes straight down the middle. Easy pass for Jaworski, who had good protection for the touchdown.
And Prefley at 6'3" and 225 ran right over Levi Johnson, who met him at the 3, but Prefley was not to be denied. Horst Muhlman can tie the game up with 2:43 to play. Out of Spike Jones' hold. This game is even at 7 apiece. Charlie Sanders has come in. The great veteran tight end Dexter Bussey is out. And lands it with 11 seconds. Wants it all. And it's a touchdown for Charlie Sanders. Charlie Sanders with yet another big play, a type that has typified his career. The all-time leading Lion receiver. He broke Gail Cogdill's record last week, and we'll look at it again.
Charlie Sanders working on John Outlaw, the cornerback. Landry pumps the other way, then goes to Sanders, who beat Outlaw clear in the end zone for a touchdown. Here's a wide-angle view of it. Now watch Sanders as he puts an out move, comes back to the middle. Great delivery by Landry under pressure for a reception and a touchdown. But there's a flag on the play, and all goes for naught. Newmoff is talking to the official. A big penalty against the Lions, a big break for the Eagles. 6 seconds left in the game.
7 offense, 3rd down.
The penalty is against Hertwig, and that will hurt him.
And now Mickemeyer will come in with 6 seconds to go to attempt the field goal. Danielson will hold at the 35. It is a 45-yard attempt. Mickemeyer gets it away, and it is good. He did not have much to spare on that. It barely made it over the bar as time expires in the first half with the score. The Lions 10 and Philadelphia 7. So a bit of a disappointment that the Sanders touchdown was negated, but Mickemeyer salvages 3 points out of a late drive for the Lions.
Well, the Lions offense has been potent today, Bob. The score is only 10-7, but they've been running real well. The backs have been blocking for each other. Sanders and Hill have been blocking for the backs. But another important characteristic of the offense is they're going to the running backs as receivers, more so than they are going to Sanders or to Hill or even to Jarvis. The Eagles, on the other hand, have been sporadic. They've looked good, they've looked bad. They've had one good drive. Jaworski drove them down the field for that one score, but they have not really been that impressive offensively.
So the Lions have scored on a 14-yard run by Dexter Bussey, following an interception and 32-yard return by Levi Johnson, and the 45-yard field goal on the last play of the half by Steve Mickemeyer. The Eagle touchdown, a 31-yard connection from Ron Jaworski to Keith Krefley, and there's your halftime score.
Next Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, CBS Sports Spectacular presents highlights of the U.S. Grand Prix from Watkins Glen. Live coverage of the World Middleweight Full Contact Karate Championship with Bill Superfoot Wallace defending his title against Pat Worley. And the World's Strongest Men competition featuring the Steel Bar Bend contest. That's next Saturday at 4:30.
You know, coming up this Saturday on the CBS Sports Spectacular at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, CBS will bring you the Grand Prix from Watkins Glen, New York. And for a preview on that exciting auto racing event, let's go to Ken Squire.
The anniversary of one of the premier races in the world, the United States Grand Prix at Watkins Glen, New York. I'm Ken Squire, and throughout the afternoon we'll be updating you on the activity of this World Championship race, in which car number 11, driven by Niki Lauda, is expected to assume the world title still another time. Lauda is about to climb into this famous Ferrari car. One of his last rides for Ferrari. He changes to another team next year. And with this race, once again, be world champion. Lauda will not be racing so hard for first place as for the world title today. But for others, here in the rain, the story is going to be a race for first place. Mario Andretti will be seeking his 5th Grand Prix victory of the season for Team Lotus. Meanwhile, James Hunt is on the pole. His car, the McLaren, establishing a new record, breaking Lauda's old record in qualifying. And it will be James Hunt against the field. Mario Andretti is stashed back in 4th place, and between him and Hunt are the 2 Alfa Romeo automobiles. They'll be driven by one of the best drivers in the rain, and that's expected this afternoon, Hans Stuck, and also by the very fine John Watson. Moving out of the way here as Niki Lauda moves out to take a practice lap before we settle down to this World Championship race. The weather is cold, it is raining, and that will definitely be a factor.
whether to go with rain tires or the slick tires on this 3.4 asphalt course, that's a consideration that the team managers will have to make, and they'll have to make it shortly. The temperature has been dropping in the past 2 hours. Temperature not as much of a concern on this very undulating course as the water. Right at turn number 2, the water, if it starts to rain hard, is a river. Recall a year ago in Japan, Niki Lauda retired from the event and lost the world championship to James Hunt. He said he very well could pull out today. No one likes to run in the wet, but if there is a driver that can do it well in the wet, it is West Germany's Hans Stuck, and from the United States of America, Mario Andretti.
From the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan, Bob Costas back along with Nick Bonicatti, and with the Lions leading by 3 at halftime, we've got the makings of an exciting second half, Nick.
That's right, and it should be a real exciting half, and Vermeil will make some adjustments.
The NFL Today on CBS will return after this word from your local station. The Lions in front of the Eagles by 3 on the last play field goal by Steve Mickemeyer. Now we're going to take a look at that field goal. It just barely made it over the bar, and we'll have a chance to watch it again. We'll get it up here in just a minute. Here it is. Danielson holding, and Mickemeyer from the 35, making it a 45-yard attempt.
Watch the ball. It just nudges over the bar to make it good. Looked like he didn't eat his Wheaties this morning. Just nudges over. Sails in. I think it glazed the upright for the make it good.
What's your impressions of that first half?
Well, again, the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles has not been what you would expect. Turkey pretty much has been neutralized because they have been running on them, and if there's any strength in the Eagles, it is their defensive secondary and their linebackers, and Berkey has been fairly neutralized. But I am impressed with Hogan, and I am impressed with Tommy Sullivan. I feel if they're going to come out the second half that they have to get the ball more to Tommy Sullivan because he can catch the football coming out of the backfield. He has good moves. He has real good speed, and Hogan's a real tough runner. So it's really a combination of, I think, better play selection by Jaworski and getting it to the runners just a little bit better.
One of the interesting matchups is Carmichael, the big guy at 6'8", being covered by the rookie Walt Williams. And so far, Williams has done a pretty good job staying with Carmichael.
Well, the one time Carmichael was open, Jaworski, who had a lot of time, overthrew him, and it resulted in a Levi Johnson interception. So I think Carmichael is there. Jaworski just has to get him the football.
Last week, Williams drew Harold Jackson, much smaller receiver, but also a good one in Los Angeles, and he shut him off pretty well. Let's take a look at some other scores right now around the NFL. Green Bay is playing at Minnesota, and they are even up at 7-7 in the first period. Don't know how Minnesota got the tying touchdown, but Green Bay had jumped in front on a 95-yard pass from Lynn Dickey to Steve Odom. Chicago leading New Orleans on a pass play from Bob Abilene to Sweetness Walter Payton in the first period, 7-zip.
The Saints can't get on track. They're 0-2 right now, and Chicago's ahead of them, and Strand really has to get it together.
And they looked so promising during the preseason. A lot of people thought the Saints would be the most improved team in the NFL this year.
Well, they had that thunder and lightning in the backfield, but yet they're not doing anything, and they have a healthy Archie Manning, but yet they can't put any points on the board, and they can't win a game.
The Bears lead there, the Lions lead here. How do you view the race in the NFC Central? Every year they say this is the year the Vikings can be taken. Everybody's 1-1 so far.
I'm saying it's about time. The black and blue division is finally black and blue. Everybody's a contender. The Lions are as good as the Bears, and the Bears as good as the Vikings. And I guess the only weakness that you have in the whole division is Tampa Bay. But it's something that's good for football to see that black and blue division right on top. And this game is very important to the Lions because of the score, the Minnesota score right now.
They lead it by 3 over the Eagles at halftime, 10-7. And right now, Tommy Hudspeth is in the locker room with the Lions talking it over. And Dick Vermeil, who is the kind of coach who will make drastic adjustments during halftime, is speaking with his Eagles. And we'll see what comes out of it when we begin the third quarter shortly. But right now, we're going to go back to CBS Control in New York. We'll join Brent Musburger, Phyllis George, and Irv Cross.
Hank, update all the scores right now. The New York Giants and Atlanta. Many of you watching that game. The Falcons ahead. Tough defense this year. Philadelphia and Detroit. The rest of you watching that contest. 10-7 at the half. The Lions ahead. New England and the New York Jets. Very entertaining football game. 17-14 Patriots ahead. Pittsburgh and Cleveland. How about those amazing Browns this year? Tied at 14 at the half. Minnesota and Green Bay. The Packers struck first. 95-yard touchdown pass. Now they're tied at 7. New Orleans and Chicago. The Saints have just scored. They have just kicked the extra point. Tied in Chicago 7-all. Dallas and Tampa Bay. A Henderson interception for the Cowboys makes it 10-0. Buffalo and Baltimore. What's wrong with the Colts offense? Scoreless now in the first quarter. Irv, let's get started with those highlights, and let's pick up now on Detroit.
Okay, Detroit and the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, out of Pontiac Stadium. The Lions were leading that game by a score of 10-7, and, of course, defense has been the name of the game all day. But Ron Jaworski here gets started for the Eagles, 3rd and 16 on his own 22-yard line. He goes up in the air, but the defense takes charge. Levi Johnson, number 23, picks the ball off at midfield, runs the ball back 32 yards, down to the Philadelphia 14, setting up a Dexter Buzzy touchdown. And here it is right here. Handoff, 14 yards off his right tackle. Buzzy goes in. Detroit leads 7-0. Philadelphia tries to come back, and they do. Right here, 2nd and 10 on Detroit's 31-yard line. Jaworski goes it perfectly. 31-yard touchdown passes, all tied 7-7. Detroit later came back with a field goal and lead at halftime 10-7.
Giants and Atlanta, Irv, and again we stress the importance of a kicking game in professional football. How many contests does that turn around? The Falcons got on the board because of this neat return coming up here by Lawrence. Last week for the Giants, it was Hammond who busted one against the Dallas Cowboys. Bad ankle tackle right there, and Lawrence gets down to the Giants' 34-yard line. Scott Hunter, then in the second quarter, kept it, and he ran from the Falcons' 34 to the 1-inch line. Scott Hunter doing a good job filling in for Bartkowski this year. Now it'll be Ely who will score the touchdown, and the extra point made it 7-0. Goldstein under pressure for the Giants. Here comes Lewis out after him. Is it that Falcon defense that has improved this team this year? Goldstein's pass going to be batted down here by the guy they call Captain Crazy, Kuykendall. Goldstein's pass this time intercepted by Ray Brown. And so at the half, it is 7-0, Atlanta over the Giants. Green Bay, Minnesota, let me show you that 95-yard touchdown pass as it was thrown by Lynn Dickey to Steve Odom, and it put them ahead. Minnesota was then able to snap back after that. But it's a key play because the Vikings have had some problems this year. Here it is, Dickey now to Odom, who is loose, 95 yards. And then after the extra point, it was 7-0, the Packers ahead of the Vikes. But the Vikings rallied, and it was Fran Tarkenton who brought them back. 17-yard touchdown pass, Sammy White. After the extra point, it was 7-7. And the NFL Today will continue on CBS.
The Lions and the Eagles back on the field at the Silverdome in Pontiac. There you see the score. The Lions up by 3. Bob Costas along with Nick Buoniconti. And we're just about set to get the second half underway.
I always wanted to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. After college, I kept working out, running through the streets of Philadelphia. Then, finally, I made it as a 30-year-old rookie. For me, Vince Papale, it was a dream come true. Another dream came true in Philadelphia here in 1776 at Independence Hall. The Liberty Bell rang it out, and Betsy Ross sewed a flag for it. Dreams are still coming true as Philadelphia rebuilds the riverfront and Center City area. These people are dream makers. They're United Way volunteers, neighbors, fans, and teammates working for the mentally ill and retarded, the YMCA, and many other agencies funded by our United Way. Philadelphia wouldn't be the same without them. They take pride in their team, their city, and their United Way. On behalf of the volunteers in the 4-county area of Philadelphia, we'd like to say thanks to you. It works for all of us, the United Way.
There's Jaworski. He is the kind of guy who can really pump a team up in the huddle. He's a very animated player, exuding enthusiasm. And of course, enthusiasm grows when you put points on the board. And the Eagles have not done that too well so far this year. Jaworski to Carmichael, and Carmichael has 6 points. barely got his feet down in the end zone for the touchdown.
The penalty is against the Lions, and it probably is a holding penalty against the defensive backs. The Eagles will refuse it.
Here it is.
Carmichael just gives an out move. Jaworski delivers the ball, hanging in the pocket beautifully. Good protection. All the evidence of a good offensive play that results in 6 points for the Eagles.
And into the end zone by inches, and Jaworski showing you a bit of what we told you about him, about his being very animated, enthusiastic type player. He ran over and jumped right into the arms of Harold Carmichael after the touchdown. Muhlman will try and make it 14-10 with 8:50 to play in the third quarter. The Eagles ahead for the first time. Jones had trouble spotting it, and it's blocked. That was not Muhlman's fault. Jones could not hang on to the snap, and he was late getting it down. And Muhlman's point after touchdown is blocked. And that could be crucial because the Lions are now within distance to tie on a field goal, trailing 13-10.
There's a former Atlanta head coach, Marion Campbell, and actually my first coach in professional football. He's given the defensive signals to the Eagles and has found a home back in Philly again. He and Fred Bruni coming over from the Falcons.
Campbell, who flashes the defensive signals, and Bill Davis, who is doing it this week rather than Vermeil flashing the offensive signals. They each wear yellow shirts on the sidelines so they can be distinguished by the players on the field. All the other coaches in white shirts. A third down play. They need the touchdown. And Landry has Bussey for the score. So Bussey has scored once on the ground and once through the air, and the Lions are back in front. 16-13 Detroit. The clock shows 2:47 to play, and that's Lawrence Gaines, number 38, who has been inactive this season because of a knee injury, in uniform for the first time today. He congratulates Bussey after this catch.
Utilization of your running backs as receivers, and that's what Landry has done all day long. The King and Bussey, that one to Bussey, resulting in a great touchdown for the Lions.
They went 68 yards in 12 plays to regain the lead, and now a big point after, attempted by Steve Nickemeyer. It's through there, and that missed extra point, actually blocked extra point earlier, looms even larger because now the Eagles need a touchdown to do them any good. A field goal will not tie it.
Well, Coach, what do? Do you go for the first down and try and get the touchdown, or do you kick the field goal and then make it 17-16?
Dick Vermeil talking it over.
They're going for the field goal.
Now the field goal will leave them a point short, even if it is good. But they need 2 yards, and Vermeil decides that with plenty of time remaining, 12:45, that he'll let Horst Muhlman try one with Spike Jones holding. Jones kneeling at about the 27, making it a 37-yard attempt. Muhlman is yet to kick one this year. A flag is thrown as Muhlman gets the kickoff. It's no good, wide to the right side, and let's wait for the penalty. It's against Philadelphia. Obviously, the Lions decline. The Eagle drive is stopped, and with 12 minutes and 40 seconds to play in the ball game, the Lions retain that 17-13 lead at the Silverdome. There you see it, 10 seconds remaining. The Eagles have no timeouts left. Detroit 17, Philadelphia 13. From the line, 46. The clock is moving as Jaworski takes the snap. This could be the game's last play. They've got to go for everything. Jaworski firing long. Out of the end zone, and the clock shows no time remaining. This ball game is over. The Lions defeat the Philadelphia Eagles at the Silverdome 17-13. Detroit is 2-1. The Eagles are 1-2. And for Nick Bonaconte, I'm Bob Costa saying goodbye from Pontiac, Michigan, and stay tuned for the doubleheader game coming up next on most of these CBS stations. Stay tuned as the NFL Today continues after this word from your local station.
Cowboys heavy favorites, but you never know.
Oh, it's about time for Tampa to jump up with somebody, and I'll tell you what, the good defensive team, they are as good as anybody. They can play.
We're ready to play some football right now. Ironically, 4 passers in the AFC have better completion rates than that right now. I don't know what that tells you, except the quarterback's so far been a lot better in the American Conference. Herrera will attempt a 32-yard field goal. Efren Herrera. Waters is the holder. It's up. It's good. So Dallas is first on the scoreboard this afternoon with 8 minutes and 4 seconds remaining in the first period of play. It's the Cowboys 3 and the Buccaneers nothing. So the Bucs moving the football right smartly. They're at the 23-yard line. That's a first down. Cowboy fans getting a little noisy now, trying to stir up their defense. Anthony Davis in motion to the left. It is Huff under pressure. Whoa, Henderson! He can fly at the 40. Henderson at the 50. He's going all the way, I believe. Thomas Henderson scores on an 80-yard interception return and spikes it between the goalposts. Get out of town. Take a look at it again. Gary Huff. Can't find anybody open. Probably shouldn't have thrown the football, but there's a big play man. Tommy Henderson got speed to burn. #1 draft choice last year, surprisingly, out of a small school. I did a game here again 2 years ago when he was a rookie. Ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown and did that same thing. Spiked it through. That off boy, Tommy. Get it right on. Well, that's a new style spike, we have to say. 79 yards on the interception return by Thomas Henderson. That is his second NFL touchdown. He returned a kickoff for a touchdown a couple of years ago against the St. Louis Cardinals, and as Hawk said, did the same thing. Spiked it between the goalposts. Herrera with the extra point try. And Dallas suddenly leads 10-0 with 3 minutes and 50 seconds left to play in the opening period. Look at it again. 1st and 10 for the Cowboys at the Tampa Bay 28. 49 seconds left in the opening period. Staubach to Pearson. 20. Pearson down to the 17-yard line. Nifty little move there as he dipped back inside and picked up close to 10 yards in the play. Mark Cotney, number 33, makes the stop.
The kind of a misdirection play here. The flow going to the right. Look at Preston and the moves. He's got more than a water bug, brother. He is not only a fine football player, but one of the finest individuals. Can you imagine the pressure he had all year listening to the drafting of Tony Dorsett and how he was going to be run off from his job, but not so?
Well, that's a sign of a great competitor. He certainly rose to the occasion, and he beat out Dorsett clean. 1st and 10 at the 17. Newhouse, 15, 10. Newhouse, 5, touchdown. Newhouse using his left arm as kind of a windmill there to balance himself to keep from going out of bounds.
Bobby Newhouse, watch how he follows the lead block of Preston Pearson, number 26, and he stays outside there. Nice block there by Ralph Neely also. Tips it up just barely staying in bounds there. Oh, the roof's starting to cave in early for Tampa. They got to get something going.
16-0. Cowboys leading with the extra point to come. There are 5 seconds left on the clock in the opening period of play. Good. Herrera, 2 for 2 in the extra point department, plus 1 field goal. And we'll have time for the kickoff, and that will be it as far as the first period is concerned. Dallas zooming out to a 17-0 lead. And this Dallas club, of course, is so deep that when they decide to bring on the scrubs, all they have to put in is Tony Dorsett. You know. 2nd down. Buccaneers need 8 for the first down. Ball is at the 47-yard line of Dallas. That's Danny White warming up on the sidelines. I don't know why he'd be warming up this early. Staubach's having some problems with that hamstring. Huff going long. He's got a man out there if he can reach it, but it's overthrown. So Dallas takes over at their 35-yard line, and Tony Dorsett has come into the ball game for the first time this afternoon for the Dallas Cowboys, replacing Preston Pearson at running back. Once again, the regional doubleheader next week on CBS. These are the games that you'll be watching, depending on what part of the country you happen to be in. These are a couple of the games. We'll give you a rundown of the rest of them in just a moment. Handoff, Dorsett. Good block from Lawless. Dorsett hit at the 40, fumbles, picked up by Tampa Bay, and racing down the sidelines is Richard Wood. And Wood goes into the end zone. No flag. And he spikes it between the posts. Too. I did not see a flag. Or did I? I'll bring it back. Let's see.
Let's watch this again. Roger Staubach makes the handoff, as he said, blocked by Lawless there. Moving outside. Now watch Jarris White there. Puts the hammer on him good. Richard Wood picking it up and starting down. I couldn't tell.
Touchdown will hold. There was a clipping call against Dallas, and that is declined by Tampa Bay. So the Buccaneers have their first touchdown of the season as Richard Wood, a la Thomas Henderson, spikes it between the goalposts. So Dorsett fumbles on his first carry from scrimmage, and Wood picks it up and runs it in for the score.
I can't explain these late decisions on officials. They can't make up their mind what they're going to call the thing.
It's been one of those games. So it's a 17-6 game with the extra point try from Alan Levitt to come. Levitt has been with the Bucs just a couple of weeks, came over from Atlanta where they had two good place kickers.
Had two good place kickers. He was number 4 draft choice. I hated to give him up, but Tampa outweighted him. They tried to trade him for 3 or 4 weeks. Tampa having first rights to anybody put on waivers. They just waited him out.
Levitt with the extra point is good, and so the Buccaneers have their first touchdown of the 1977 season. It is worth another look.
Watch it again. Tony Dorsett. He's learning to follow his blocking pretty good. Jarris White putting a good hit on there. Wood with the football. Look at the block with number 56 there. Cecil Johnson leveling it all. Now let's see the spike. 2 points. There we go.
So Tampa Bay has come back to score a touchdown and make things a little more interesting here in the second period, which is 9 minutes and 43 seconds left to play. We started to tell you about some of the games coming up next week on the NFL regional doubleheader. Philadelphia and the Giants, Detroit and Minnesota. Those are some of the early games, and these are some of the late games. Dallas, St. Louis, Atlanta, San Francisco, and Washington, Tampa Bay. Depending on where you happen to be, you'll be seeing both ends of the CBS regional doubleheader.
Well, so you got to know that the Tampa people happily finally get a touchdown on the board, even if the defense did have to make it for them.
Bill Nelson was right, wasn't he?
Yes, sir. We'll get on there somehow. Is that Saldi or Saldi?
Well, we've been calling him Saldi. In fact, he stopped me in the elevator the other day and said, "My name is Saldi. My dad would like it called Saldi." I said, "Whatever Papa wants, that's just fine." So it's Saldi. Third down, goal to go. Fake to Dorsett. Staubach waiting, throws it over the middle, intended for Butch Johnson. And knocked down at the goal line. And Staubach took a pretty good shot that time from Collar, who just came into the game. So that will set up fourth down. Let's see if Dallas will settle for the field goal here. And that will be the case. So the Buccaneers have held him. And the Cowboys field goal unit, headed by Efren Herrera, will check into the game.
I know as far as Roger Staubach is concerned, much was accomplished, though. They ate up a lot of the clock. They moved the ball well and cut off any momentum that Tampa might have got from that touchdown they just received.
2:49 left to play in the first half. Charlie Waters puts it down, and Herrera's second field goal of the effort of the afternoon is good. And Dallas lead bounced to 20-7. Cowboys 20 and the Buccaneers 7. We'll be back in just a moment. So Dallas in command throughout this first half, going out to a 17-0 lead. Stewie Selman getting some advice.
I guess this is easily Tampa's worst defensive performance of the year already today.
Well, they gave up 9 points against Minnesota, and they gave up, what, 14 previous week against Philadelphia, and then they gave up 0 the week before against Baltimore in their last preseason game.
And when you can hold Burt Jones in that crowd scoreless, you've done some work.
On the other hand, you can't blame a 79-yard interception return on your defense.
No, you surely can't. The unknown man in the Dallas coaching staff. Is that Jim Myers there?
Jim Myers in the center.
Yeah.
He's the offensive line coach and now carries the title of assistant head coach. The guy in the white
everybody knows when you pan that sideline, you're going to see Landry, and he's usually with Reeves. But Jim Myers is always in the area. He's the assistant, head coach?
Assistant head coach. That's a pretty impressive title. Ball is at the 14-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Cowboys with 12 seconds left to play in the first half. Dallas leading 20-7. Pearson and Newhouse are the setbacks. Drew Pearson is wide to the right. Golden Richards off to the left. Here comes the rush. Going for Golden Richards in the corner of the end zone, but he was out of the end zone when he pulled it down.
Mike Washington on the coverage over there and had him covered well, too. That's the only place Roger could do it, is throw it out of bounds or throw it deep. Coverage was there.
So here comes the field goal unit as Staubach and company leave the field. Herrera 2 for 2 thus far in the afternoon. He's hit from 32 yards and also from 19 yards. This will be a 31-yard effort. No good. Missed it off to the left. Well, that is a rarity.
From in there close, he doesn't miss many.
That is a real rarity to see Herrera miss a field goal attempt from that close in. So Tampa Bay will have one shot at it. First and 10 at the 20-yard line for the Buccaneers. Let's see if Huff winds up, goes for broke, or just elects to run out the clock. Is going to run it out. Fumble on the play, but quickly recovered by number 32, Lewis Carter, as the gun sounds, ending the first half of play with the Dallas Cowboys leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by a score of 20-7. What do you think, Hawk?
The game speaks for itself. They really have been out of it early. Tampa just hadn't done one thing to generate any kind of scoring drive. They got to get the offense started, and how they're going to do that, I have no earthly idea against the fine Dallas team.
Well, Dallas really hasn't looked all that sharp entirely in the first half either. They look a little flat at times.
I would agree with you. The Cowboys came out like they were looking ahead to next week, but the Tampa just hadn't been able to do anything offensively.
So that's the way it stands here at halftime. The Dallas Cowboys leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-7, and we'll be back with you at Texas Stadium shortly.
That man now.
Halftime at Texas Stadium with the Dallas Cowboys leading the expansionist Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-7. This one going just about according to form right now. Cowboys led by Roger Staubach in that first half, and a 79-yard interception return by Thomas Henderson, which had to be thus far the key play in the football game. And Tampa Bay having scored its first touchdown of the season on the return of a fumble by linebacker Richard Wood. So the Tampa Bay offense still hasn't scored in the 1977 season, but the defense making up for the slack with Wood scoring that touchdown on the fumble return. Staubach hasn't had too much of a problem throwing the football thus far. He has hit 8 out of 12 passes for 105 yards. Gary Huff, after being in the game a short period of time against Minnesota last week, really has done quite well for a man who's been out of action for about a month or so. He has hit 4 out of 9 passes for a total of 44 yards, and his only miscue, of course, was the big one, but Henderson picked off the interception because that came right in the midst of what could have been a very fine drive by Tampa Hawk.
To me, that was a turning point in the ball game. Tampa had moved the ball pretty well prior to that interception. Just seemed to take all the steam out of Tampa,
and you know, developing a winning habit is the hardest thing in the world with an expansion team.
Well, there's a portion of the crowd here which has got a number close to 60,000, just under capacity here at Texas Stadium, and obviously they are enjoying themselves the way things have gone thus far this afternoon for the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys, as you might expect, did not exactly appear full of total inspiration.
No, they really didn't.
It's tough to get up for a game like this.
Yes, it is. But from Tampa's standpoint, they have lost 2 games they could just as easily won earlier in the year, and this has been a nice time to knock off a team like the Dallas Cowboys because you think back the last couple of years, Dallas always has one of those games somewhere where the Green Bay Packers or somebody, last year it was the Atlanta Falcons, jumped up and beat them unexpectedly. It was an excellent time to do it. Not that Tampa can't go. They're not out of the ball game by any means. It's 20-7 halftime score. But let's say they stood a better chance had they not had that interception.
Buccaneers return home next Sunday afternoon against the Washington Redskins as they continue the Murderers Row portion of their schedule. 3 weeks in a row, Minnesota, Dallas, and Washington. The NFL Today on CBS will return after this word from your local station.
The pass, out it goes to Swan. Touchdown, Lynn Swan. Caught the ball against Clarence Scott.
The whole play was made by Lynn Swan. He just plays the defender. The defender did not look through the quarterback, had no idea where the ball was. Terry just throws the ball up. He knows they're right together. However, Scott is not looking at the ball. Swan waits till the last second, comes off, and makes an easy touchdown.
1-yard return of Lynn Swan set up the Pittsburgh score. The kick is up by Girella, and the kick is good. Timeout in Cleveland with the score. The Pittsburgh Steelers 7, the Cleveland Browns nothing. Out of the eye. Fake. Let's go. Out there, Logan. Touchdown.
Unbelievable
catch by Dave Logan.
He's hurt, but man, he just stretched his whole body out on the right in midair. Came up with a little gimpy ankle, but if you got to get a bad ankle, get it scoring a touchdown. It was a well-thrown ball right in between the defense, but it was a fabulous catch.
That's the man we're talking about. In his second year, drafted by 3 professional sports, baseball, basketball, and football. And he's limping off, but he's doing it all here in the early part of this season for the Cleveland Browns. Well, that drive goes for 64 yards, and if Cockcroft sends this one through, we have a tie game. Kick is good. With 22 seconds to go in the first period. Timeout. It is 7-7. Wire in motion. Bradshaw deflected. Intercepted. Intercepted. Gerald Irons. Irons out of bounds. Gerald Irons picked off the deflection by Mike St. Clair. 74. St. Clair tipped the ball. And there was Gerald Irons.
And Kurt, if you don't think having 4 defensive linemen that are 6 foot 7 inches tall doesn't harm a quarterback vision, you got another thing coming, because it is so tough to throw when they're only 6'1" or 2. You don't see much, but at 6'7", there is no way you can get it through those men.
Mike St. Clair is a second-year player from Grambling. That's Gerald Irons. He's been around. The Raiders traded him over here. He was there. He's been in the league 8 years. Brown's 3rd interception. Look how short through it is. Sometimes they say he's 5'10", then he's 5'9", then he shrinks down to 5'8". Look at him with those giants in that huddle. Zip. Threw it in motion. Miller scores easily. Leo Miller over, and the Browns take the lead. He went behind the wedge blocking of the center, Tom DeLeon, and Henry Shepard.
Great offensive line search on both those goal line plays. Henry Shepard, DeLeon, and Jackson took the middle of Pittsburgh's great defense into the end zone, and that's about all you need to do for those backs.
Don Cockcroft, who lives in a trout stream about 50 miles outside of Colorado Springs. Boy, how I envy. That's some nice big German Browns in there. There's the kick. The jump is good. And the surprising Browns continue to do it. The score with a timeout, 14-7 Cleveland. Second down 10. So Bradshaw will go to the air. Here's a deep pass to Frank Lewis. Lewis. He has it. Lewis has it and is in for the touchdown. Frank Lewis grabs it. Took it away from the rookie, Oliver Davis. As Davis was juggling the ball, Frank Lewis went right with it and scored. And what a game we're having here.
I'll tell you, 14-14. This is barely into the second quarter, 9:50 left. And Oliver Davis would love to have another opportunity to try and bat that ball down. He played it perfectly on defense. However, he tried to catch it. When you try to do that with a man standing around in the open, any kind of bounce ball may turn into a touchdown. That's exactly what happened.
66-yard pass play to Lewis off the hands of the defensive back, Oliver Davis, and then back into the hands of Frank Lewis for the score. So each club's had a big break here to score in the last minute. Roy Jarilla will try and tie it up. Flag is down. Hold it. The flag is down. The kick is good. And now they're going at it down there. They pull them apart. The referee's lost his cap. We have flags dropped.
That may not be all he loses if he doesn't stay out of that group. That's what you call sacrificing for the cause.
What is this? Roughing the official art. Producer Mike Weisman said offside against the Steelers. Will have to kick it again. They're talking it over now, John. These officials don't want this game to get away from them. I'm sure it won't if they are on it like we've seen in groups. Each touchdown drive, 51 seconds for the last two touchdowns. Here it is.
Offense, offside. Unsportsmanlike. Both teams, after the dead ball, re-kick.
You heard it all. Re-kick. That's what it comes down to.
Well, they're re-kicking it, but they didn't put 5 yards on.
This kick is up. And he just got it through there. Little spiral. Yeah, it was one of those butterfly jobs through. Timeout. The score is tied. 14-all.
The Browns and Steelers were expected to have a brawl in Cleveland's Municipal Stadium this afternoon, but it's unlikely either team anticipated anything quite like this. Perhaps it was just the Browns venting their frustrations as they were headed for their first defeat of the year, 28-14. Well, at any rate, Terry Bradshaw had a good day. He completed 10 of 17 passes, 3 of them for touchdowns, and he ran for another. 2 of the TDs were grabbed up by his favorite receiver, Lynn Swann. With the win, Pittsburgh is 3-0 and alone in first place in the AFC Central Division.
like to score every time you get it and keep them from scoring every time they get it. But we played hard when we've needed to play hard. We've managed to come up with a play when we needed it, and we're a young football team.
I think a lot of people will be surprised that Billy White Shoes Johnson isn't playing very much this year. He hasn't caught a pass all year, and you're going with a couple of rookie wide receivers.
Well, just one. We have one rookie, Eddie Foster from University of Houston. However, Billy will play quite a bit. He plays quite a bit for us. Y'all just haven't noticed him probably because we've had him in the backfield, and we've had him at a split end, and we've had him at the flanker at Z quite a bit.
What about this game? What are you looking for tomorrow? The Dolphins have gone to a big play offense pretty much. Any plans for defensing Nat Moore and company?
Get a dip net. You've had a dip net, haven't you? One of those, a dip net? You have never used a dip net?
No.
It's a long stick with a sack on the end of it where you can reach him. No, I don't think so. I think, it'll be in the neighborhood of 17 to 19 points on each side, and I just hope we got the 19 and they got the 17.
You mentioned a little while ago that you have a pretty young team. You have to be in the toughest division in football with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, and now with Cleveland emerging. Is this team going to be very competitive, do you think, this year?
You mean ours? Well, we think if we can keep people well, we will. We can compete. We don't have 45 as good as their 45, but we feel like we've got 22 as good as theirs.
Pick up the card. Get down here. Bend down. Here it is, Robin. Here it is.
Can't play any better than we played in that first quarter, both offense and defense. We took the first drive and scored. It was a thing of beauty. The running game was working. We used Nat Moore a lot as a close flanker, and he helped on the blocking down on our outside running plays, and Benny was running really tough. And then Bob was mixing into play action, and Duriel Harris was getting open, and we kept going to him some, and it's just excellent drives. Our defense got us the football with good field position for our second touchdown, and Greasy was flawless the way that he moved. Excellent, excellent defensive effort. We just got to keep growing. It's a pretty exciting young team, and I enjoy working with them, and they're working really hard. And we got Baltimore this next week, so 3-0 goes on the line.
Pick up of close to 10 yards.
I really don't know. They say there could be a crack, and it's way up in here, up near the collarbone, so I'm not sure the extent of it. But I'd hate to lose Boo because he does so much for us. When he went out today, Nottingham did a fine job, and then I got Leroy Harrison into the ball game because I wanted to get his feet wet. A rookie, an untested rookie, he's got to play so that you have confidence in him, and he has confidence in his own ability, and that touchdown had to help.
Don, you must be really pleased, as you mentioned, with the defense, the young people there, and Steve Toll looked like he was really taking charge out there, providing some good leadership.
Well, he's done that now. He's been our leader for 3 years, and Steve's just an emotional player, and this is what you have to have, enthusiasm and emotion, especially on defense, where you can really get all over people.
You know, Nat had a great week last week, so naturally, I guess they were placing more emphasis on him. So whenever they do that, I just have to do the best I can to maybe help him out. And I think the 3 receivers we have here complement each other a lot. So there's no way I don't think they can stop all of us. So, like, you know, next week could be Fred have the great day, but I think every week one of us will be able to explode.
What about your first touchdown catch? Can you tell us about that one?
Well, it was like a quick out on the goal line and had to, you know, man-for-man coverage. And the main thing was to get into the end zone and straighten the cornerback up so you have a two-way go on him. And as I come out of the break, I saw the ball was a little overthrown, so I just wanted to make the best effort I could to get to it.
You seem to be able to make the difficult catches.
Well, I like to. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and anytime the ball is thrown in my area, I think I should catch it. And you know, it's kind of tough to expect to catch everything, but I think even if I fall short, I'll be successful by going at it with that attitude.
Yesterday's 27-7 victory over the Oilers was a sight to behold for Dolphin defensive coaches. Coach Shula's young unit held the Oilers running game to just 68 yards in a potentially explosive passing game led by quarterback Dan Pastorini to only 137. The highlight of the day was a brilliant goal line stand early in the fourth quarter where Houston failed to get into the end zone on 5 straight tries from the 3-yard line. Leading Shula's young Lions yesterday was rookie nose guard Bob Baumauer. He had 8 unassisted tackles.
You know, it was just a great effort. We knew we could hold them and everything, and we just had to really get fired up and stuff and get some emotion going, and we stopped them.
There didn't seem to be that many sacks of Pastorini, but you guys were applying a lot of pressure, making him do things that he didn't want to do.
Yeah, you know, you can be doing your job on the line and not get some sacks. We got some pretty good pressure today, and it caused them to, you know, dump the ball pretty quick, and thus, you know, they didn't get a lot of yardage off of his passes.
The Dolphins' young, aggressive defense will face its stiffest test Sunday when it meets the always tough Colts in Baltimore. Both are atop the AFC's Eastern Division with 3-0 records. Roger Twibell, Channel 4 Sports.
When Norm Bulash went out of Sunday's game against Houston, Leroy Harris moved into the backup fullback role behind Don Nottingham. With the way Don Shula utilizes his backs, this meant Harris was to get his first chance to play in the NFL ranks, and he responded well, picking up 45 yards and 10 carries for an average of 4.5 yards per carry. He also bulled his way into the end zone for his first professional touchdown.
Sure does give me a lot more confidence in myself than I can get in it. Like when I get in there with Greasy, you know, they don't want me to play with Greasy unless they're sure that I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So that gave me confidence myself.
Did you realize that your impact would be that big?
No, I didn't realize that. Because Don Shula, he was stretching all year long. He was stretching to me, you know, to be ready. You know, when one of the fullbacks go down, be ready to go. Mm-hmm. And having that boo went down, I was ready.
Mm-hmm. Were you happy with the way you performed on Sunday?
Oh, I was pretty much happy with it. I thought I did a pretty good job.
With the uncertainty of Bulash for Sunday's game against the Colts, Harris may be more of a factor than even he realizes. Tony Segreto, Channel 4 Sports.
So it is 2nd and goal. The ball on the San Francisco 1-yard line. 10-7 in favor of Los Angeles. 2 minutes and 19 seconds to go in the second quarter. Still the 2 tight ends, Nelson and Young, along with Scales, and time called by Los Angeles. Joe Namath with 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go. He had 10 seconds before the 2-minute warning, Sonny. This gives us a chance. Let's get back to your dart.
I'll change that from dart to waltz.
Okay, what happened?
We're playing against the Baltimore Colts, and go back to throw. Couldn't find anybody, and I found a big opening on the left-hand side. It was in Washington. I start back through the hole and very slowly, waiting for someone to knock my head off. I kept moving down the field, and I see the 2 people closing in on me, and the linebacker's coming to get me. And all of a sudden, just as I get down close to about the 15-yard line, I know I'm going to get wiped out, and I go into the 2 defensive backs, and Dennis Golbatz, the middle linebacker, hits me in the fanny, knocks me through the 2 people trying to tackle me. I come out staggering on the other side and go 15 yards untouched, a 33-yard run, the longest run from scrimmage all year for us.
No wonder you are the one and only number 9 in Washington.
They had to get the respirator to get me back to the bench.
Well, if you weren't with us, the reason Sonny is telling us it was because of Joe Namath, who actually ran with the ball today for a couple of yards and then hit the dirt to escape Skip Vanderbunt. Namath picked up 7 yards, and they'll send that to the Hall of Fame.
Let's see if he'll take it in. You think he'll call his own play here?
I doubt it. 2nd and 1 from the San Francisco 1. McCutcheon and Capoletti. Capoletti! Touchdown! John Capoletti bangs it over. So the Heisman Trophy winner of 1973 rushes for a touchdown from 1 yard out.
Right over the top. Right over the top and gets it in. Good drive by the Rams. And of course, again, a lot of it, besides running up that middle, good passing, good play calling. Joe Namath.
Now, Raphael Septian from Mexico City went to school at Southwest Louisiana. The Rams heard about him from Billy Cannon. And it is paying off. The little guy is right on the money again. And so, with 2 minutes and 7 seconds left to go in the 2nd quarter, Rams 17, San Francisco 7. And the seconds have run out. It's halftime here at the Los Angeles Coliseum. The Rams are leading the 49ers 17-7. The 49ers have won 2 of the last 3 meetings. In fact, the 49ers in the last 10 years have beaten the Rams 4 times, and all 4 times here at the Coliseum. Overall, however, the Rams hold 33-19, and there were 2 ties.
Yeah, the game started out then in the 1st quarter. You would think that you would, looking at it, like Plunkett was going to open up today and really come out throwing. He made the big play to Mitchell on a scramble, came right back on a 1st down call and hit Washington, and he had them going, and they go in and get a touchdown to take the lead. But then they got kind of conservative there in the 2nd quarter, that I thought, because they haven't had any success running the ball. They've only got about 10 yards rushing. You really would think that, I would think at halftime they're going to say, look, we're going to have to put it up a little more. We're down now. We don't want to get way down because you don't want that defensive line to tee off on him and come. But he's going to have to put it up a little more in the 2nd half.
The Ram offensive line has done an excellent job, and one of the battles that is halfway determined would be the front 4 of San Francisco trying to sack Joe Namath. And as you saw, Hardman finally got him, but that was the only sack. And we did see Namath a couple of times escape the jaws of the 4, and one time we saw him on that rather memorable scramble.
Was that, you call that a scramble? Was that actually a run?
I'm not sure quite what it was, but I know one thing. He knew exactly where Skip Vanderbunt was, and as soon as Vanderbunt got close, why, Joe decided to hit the ground. It was one of the highlights. In fact, you figure that's going to be in the Ram highlights?
Got to be in the highlights. Instead of a scramble, you could call it a stumble.
One thing for both the 49ers and the Rams being in the same division, figuring to be 1 and 2, this is a very important ball game. And for the 49ers, they had just about as bad an exhibition season as the Rams. They opened up and lost badly to an excellent team. The Rams opened up and lost badly to a team that didn't figure to beat him. The Rams beat Philadelphia, and everybody says, so what? That's the only team you have beaten. The 49ers showed a flicker of life in losing to Miami, and as you pointed out now, Plunkett throwing well for 100 yards and a touchdown. I would think that Kenny Myers and Jim Plunkett and the 49ers are going to have to take the wraps off and gamble some because they're down by 10 now.
They got to, and as you pointed out, it's the importance of this game because they go down like 3 games in their division by losing this game, and they don't want to drop 2 games down to the Rams because if they're going to be contenders for the Western Division in the NFC, this is an important game for them.
And the 49ers, when you look at the schedule, after they play the Rams, Sonny, they start playing Atlanta, not a bad ball club, then the New York Giants, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Atlanta again, New Orleans. So they have a string of games they could conceivably win. That's what makes this one so important.
Certainly is.
So it's halftime, 17-7 Rams.
The score 17-7 here at halftime in Los Angeles. Our halftime guest is the Vice President and General Manager of the 49ers, Joe Thomas. Joe, what about your observations in the first half?
Well, you know, we looked a little better than we have. Plunkett's thrown the ball quite well, I think, the first half, and he made 2 big plays, as you saw there, and we got the ball in there for a score, and this is very important for us. Our offense has not been moving the ball as well as we liked, and I was glad to see him move the ball somewhat in the first half.
The running game has to be a disappointment to you here in the first half, though. I think right before the half, the 2-minute warning, they rushed for something like 5 yards. That's unusual with the caliber of runners that you have.
Well, you know, last year they ran the ball well, and we have not, for some reason, obtained the same running game as we had last year. And what it is, I don't know. And, of course, when you're not the coach, you don't know. But we have to get that thing going along with Plunkett's passing. As I said, Plunkett threw the ball a couple times, which pleased me very much the first half.
Now, I have to talk with you, Joe, now that I have the chance to. A man that has been building winning football teams and noted for that more so than anybody in football. Starting back with the Vikings in 1960, then to Baltimore, on to Miami, and now San Francisco. Has the method of building a winning football team changed?
No, it isn't, Sonny. The whole thing is a draft. If you do the right job in a draft, then you're going to build a winning football club. I know some people say, look, some clubs win all the time despite the draft. It's not the draft, it's the people who are picking who makes the difference. The draft is there for you to build a football club. So this is where you have to start. You have to do the right job there and then go from that particular spot. Of course, the big thing and the key, you always got to come up with a quarterback. And as you know, the quarterback is the key to all football clubs as far as I'm concerned. And each place I've been, we are fortunate with Tarkenton and Greasy and Bert Jones, and now we hope that Plunkett can come along and do the job for us here.
You know, you talk about Jim Plunkett coming. By obtaining Jim Plunkett, you lose an awful lot of draft choices when you're trying to build and rebuild through the draft, aren't you?
That's right. So, of course, you know, we lost 3 first rounds and a second-round pick for Jim, and that's why it's important for him to get the job done for us, and which we're looking for him to do. You know, if you do the right job, as I said before, in Baltimore, you can take an example there. We had some high picks. We got Bert Jones and a Joel Ehrman, and John Dutton, Roger Carr, and Cook, and Barnes. These are all first and second round picks. And so we built a defensive line. We have a fine receiver there, and I say we, and also the quarterback. And again, the quarterback is the key to the whole thing.
What will the San Francisco 49ers go to and look for in their next draft?
Well, it's hard to say. In first place, I never like to say anything because I think it hurts the player who's playing that particular position anyway. But we have a lot of time since you're drafting way in May and to make up our minds, and then you have a lot of time to make trades and whatnot. But trades are also important to come through with 1 or 2 big trades each year.
Joe, thank you for stopping by, and good luck to the 49ers the rest of the season. We'll be back right after this message.
It's halftime here at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in 82-degree weather, and the Los Angeles Rams leading San Francisco 17-7. The confrontation between Joe Namath and the great front four of San Francisco. Here are some scores, as you can see, and there's a great start for that one.
Kilmer to Frank Grant for a 12-yard pass, and defense has got to be playing there. Washington 7, St. Louis nothing.
And for St. Louis, trying to stay alive for a big game with Dallas next week.
Pittsburgh got untracked and finally came back and came from behind to beat Cleveland 28-14.
I guess I was asking too much of Cleveland. They come up with 2 magnificent efforts and upsets, however you want to call it. And to ask them to beat Pittsburgh today was almost a miracle.
And they have Oakland next week.
Great.
21-7, Miami leading Houston in the 3rd period. Greasy's thrown a couple of touchdown passes in that one.
Interesting about Bob Greasy having that double vision trouble, and apparently he is able to survive the problem, and it must be a very difficult one.
He's gone to the shades, hasn't he? A little, some glasses that he's using now, and they seem to be effective for him. Atlanta 17, New York 3, a final. Atlanta, I tell you, they've been impressive every week. Saw them last week. We did the first 2 games, and a mistake-free club. They're really playing good football, and you have to admire what the coach has done to go in there and take that club and turn it around that way.
And, of course, for Atlanta to win is bad news for San Francisco because they're all in the same division, and Atlanta, having already beaten the Rams, they're hanging tough.
And this, what
That's a shocker.
Donnybrook, this was 42-24. Pardee's having some trouble stopping anybody. And, of course, Wally Chambers, their great defensive tackle, is injured. Not sure if he played today. Have no reports on that. I didn't think he was going to play. But Hank Stram, you really have to congratulate him, 42-24 over the Bears.
He was saying that he had plenty of good backs and an offense. It was a question of whether his defense would hold up. And, of course, there was a battle of offense, and it held up.
If you can score that many points, you don't need defense.
How about this one?
Well, they trailed in this game 7-0, and they come back to Minnesota, comes back to win it 19-7. And they just put it together when they have to, and they do what they have to win. What was it, 9-3 over Tampa Bay last week?
That's right. I guess another unspectacular victory, but of course that's where the payoff is. Never mind the adjective.
Oh, boy, this was a close one, 17-13. Philadelphia still having trouble offensively. Jaworski was out. He got hurt today, banged up a knee, could be out indefinitely, and Detroit goes on to win that one 17-13.
And of course, Philadelphia coming off a shutout here. They went down 20-0 against the Rams. So then coming back, I wonder when Jaworski was hurt how many points they had on the board. Do you remember?
I'm not sure. Baltimore 17, Buffalo 14. A lot closer than a lot of people thought. Baltimore has scored a lot of points against Buffalo. Buffalo's defense must have veered down a little bit today.
And there's another final, the New York Jets upsetting New England 30-27. That fits as a shocker.
New England having a lot of problems internally on the team with John Hanna and Leon Gray being out. And this has been a little tough for them. And you see another final there. Dallas made it 3 in a row, 23-7 over Tampa Bay.
So those are the scores that we have at halftime of the Coliseum. The Rams leading the 49ers 17-7.
This football trophy is made of coal. It commemorates a team of miners called the Pottsville Maroon. Back then, the ball was fatter, not much different than the helmet, a piece of old leather. You went 60 minutes in a shirt and shoes, anybody's. Today's sleeker football is made for passing, and colorful uniforms cover a lot more protection. Football has come a long way, and it's all here waiting for you at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. Don't miss it.
I'm Fran Tarkenton of the Minnesota Vikings. Now, there are guidelines which help quarterbacks make good decisions. There are also guidelines which can help young people make a responsible decision about alcohol. And we've produced them on this colorful poster, which you can receive by writing Education Commission of the States, Box 687, Denver, Colorado, 80201. Making a responsible decision about alcohol is one call we should all be able to make.
The ball on the Ram 3, first and goal. So Plunkett, trailing by 10, has a chance to get back in the ball game.
San Diego 21, Cincinnati 3. Boy, is that an upset.
Delvin Williams, he's in there. Oh, what a misdirection.
Same type of play the Rams scored on, going up the middle with a quick trap. And you watch it right here. He steps out. You see the man coming across. Lawson on the trap. Williams makes good piece of running after that. Good piece of running to get in.
But when they pulled to make the trap, you thought sure the play was going the other way. So Delvin Williams breezing in. And the 49ers are very much alive at 17-13. Tom Whittam trying to make it 14 for San Francisco. It's up, and the kick is good. And so with 11 minutes and 9 seconds to go in the third quarter from the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the Rams 17, the 49ers 14. Septien trying for a field goal. Nolan Cromwell will spot the ball on the 14, almost 15, so about a 25-yard field goal attempt, and it is good. So the 49ers did as well or more than you could expect, but the Rams still pick up 3 and lead 20-14. Washington right, Lash left. Jackson and Williams going all the way back there behind Plunkett. Jim unloading, bottled, and intercepted by Brzezinski. The ball was caught by Williams, popped out of his arms into the hands of Bob Brzezinski, the rookie linebacker from Ohio State, and they're mobbing him.
And what an alert play he makes here. You watch your rush on Plunkett. He does well to get the ball off. It's going to be a quick screen, and the ball pops up in the air. And Brzezinski just barely, it's amazing how quick his hands were right here to come up with that interception.
Amidst the good news for the Rams, bad news, Ron Jesse will have surgery tomorrow for torn knee ligament.
Oh.
First and 10 on the Ram 20. Scales left, Jackson right. Lawrence McCutcheon. And he got inside the 15 and goes out of bounds at the 11-yard line.
Boy, he does this all on his own. Plays going up the middle. Watch this. He cuts right here because he sees daylight, cuts outside, and just his speed gets him around the corner.
McCutcheon has carried 22 times for 83 yards. There's a San Diego big story.
San Diego 24 with Cincinnati 3 in the fourth period. Now it's 14-7. Washington over St. Louis.
Second and 2 from the 11. Capoletti is to the 5, across the 5. Ralph McGill hit him, and it didn't bother him. Capoletti kept on going.
All right, first down.
First down inside the 5. So Kenny Myers asking his defense to hold on again, which is almost asking the impossible. The 49ers have played well. A couple of penalties, an interception on one drop by Williams. The drop by Gene Washington has ruined what would have been a big second-half comeback. Third and 1 from the 1. Capoletti got in there. The 49ers say no, but the officials say yes. Oh, no, says Anthony Leonard. No, 1,000 times no.
I can't believe it. Oh, I cannot believe it. Look at him.
Well, Capoletti following Tom Mack. He can take another look.
Let's see what we can make out of the play. He goes over the top. A lot of people. And you know who's right underneath there? Is that McGill and Vanderbunt.
And there's Taylor coming along.
And Taylor coming in. He must have got it on his second effort. He don't look. I tell you, he has a lot.
That's good. There's a few oh-no's up north, I'm sure.
I'm sure of that.
We've got 6:35 to go in the ball game, and the Rams are sitting on what is now a comfortable lead, 27-14. He had both backs crossing there, Jackson and Williams.
Yes, San Francisco, and talking with their coaches, they got to believe in themselves a little more. They got to believe they can win.
Third and 20 from their own 24. 4:58 left to play. Plunkett is short. It's picked up by Rod Perry. He laterals to Bill Simpson. He's at the 20, 15, 10, 5, 4-yard line. Rod Perry intercepted and lateral to Bill Simpson, who carried it inside the 5. And what a day for the 49ers.
Let's take a look at it. Plunkett trying to muscle it in double coverage. I tell you, my hat goes off to him because this is tough. He's been put in that position all day of having to come up with a big play. A lateral off to Simpson, down the field. And what happens here? Oops, back down in scoring position again.
Nelson and Young, the two tight ends. Second down. And it's McCutcheon. He's in there, Lawrence McCutcheon for the touchdown. And a bone-weary 49er defense has just about had all the air let out of the balloon now. We have 4 minutes to go, and the Rams have this one with a lock on it.
Anybody in there? You can see it right here. It's just they've been pounding on him and beating on him and beating on him. Capoletti leads. They go right in. McCutcheon, great runner that he's in. He gets into the end zone again.
So it's 33-14 Rams. Septien trying to make it 34. It's up. She's good.
Now we talk about Joe Namath calling plays. It's easy to call plays inside the 20 all the time.
So right now, 4 minutes left to go. Rams 34, 49ers 14. So the 49ers finished the game on a completed pass, but they didn't have very many high spots in the second half. As we mentioned, they got to 17-14 and had a chance for a field goal to tie it up and missed it. They had several opportunities to backfire, and an alert Ram ball club, either an interception and a lateral or a block punt, and they were able to pile up the lead and sit on top of it. Well, Bull will have one more play with 3 seconds to go. Harrison right, Washington left. And Bull is dragged and fumbled. Keith Farnorth fell on the ball. It was Jack Youngblood who stripped the ball from him. Farnorth recovered, but it's all over. So the Los Angeles Rams grinding out a 34-14 victory. A combination of very good offense and defense for the 49ers. Close but no cigar, and they couldn't overcome the Rams and their own mistakes. Chuck Knox and Kenny Myers saying goodbye to each other. They were very close for 4 years here. Today they were ahead of, and it was the Rams who come up 20 on top, 34-14. That's the final from the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Now this is Vin Scully for Sonny Jurgensen saying goodbye from the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Now let's join Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire for the conclusion of the St. Louis-Washington game in Washington, D.C.
2 minutes to play. Art Morris, but he might have the first down. He does.
Now, fights weren't restricted just to Cleveland this afternoon, as the Redskins and Cardinals had their moments also. But the moments that counted belonged to the Redskins as they surprised the favorite Cardinals 24-14. Billy Kilmer also threw for 3 touchdowns, with the key one coming on this 53-yard hookup with John Riggins. It came in the 4th quarter and it killed a Cardinal comeback. The loss left the Redbirds with a surprising 1-2 losing record, while the Skins are 2-1 on the year and still chasing the Cowboys. John Arminio, Channel 4 Sports.
Yard line of the Kansas City Chiefs. No score. Stabler again to the air. Going the slant is the one and only Fred Bellinger. Pass rush. Livingston. All right. Throws it into a crowd, and Walter White comes up with it. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. All right. All right. 2 rookie setbacks. Livingston wide open. First and 20. Ball at the 42-yard line. Livingston wants to go deep, and he does. Perfect. Great catch by. How do you like that? Oh, yeah. 41-yard.
He told me exactly how it is. Well, tell me about this right here. That's just straight right over the middle. And that time Willie Lanier couldn't get there. You amaze me. How do you know?
First down and 5. Ball at the 37-yard line. Clarence Davis left side, big hole.
Look at that. Touchdown. Touchdown.
37-yard.
Run that off tackle most any time. Look at him close it off. Big 78 Art Shell just closed it down. A good bump out, as you mentioned, by Van Egan on Emmett Thomas.
Watching 3rd down and 3 for the first. Here comes a reverse.
Throw it. Throw it.
This could score.